So because of the solutions that most people have been able to deploy, so the payments are more secure, more safe, and even in terms of the speed, yeah, so it becomes more instantaneous than what we'd see previously, about 3 days to pay the transaction. Today, through technology, I think all payments we are handling today is instantaneous. We are getting to a level where we are processing transactions by the second, 5 transactions in a second, or even milliseconds. So that shows you how important digitalization of these payments is. I think the other very important aspect around the protection and the use of technology is the fact that through the different platforms that are being launched, or let me say apps, for example, the sending apps that are out there. So they've realized the importance of putting in some sort of financial literacy and planning, where they provide resources for migrants to basically manage their finances better, get to understand where they can save, and basically plan for their future. Because there's definitely need for a conversation around moving our mindset from just sending remittances from for consumption to more useful use cases like savings and investment to secure the future and the receive markets. I think the other very important thing around this is the fact that from these platforms that we are seeing in the market, especially with states like Ministry of Diaspora and State Affairs, there are platforms that are now being launched by different agencies or government actors that basically allow migrants to also engage with employers, report concerns, and advocate for better working conditions. On the other side, from an exposure perspective, because again, this technology is bound to a lot of exposures, we've seen a lot of exploitative sort of activities where some fintechs would offer loans with very high interest rates, sometimes charges that are not even very clear, and so it potentially traps a migrant into a debt cycle, because you're told, yeah, from what you're sending, we can see we can unlock a certain credit for you, and you'll be able to, I don't know, invest in something here or there. And then all of a sudden you find that you're indeed trapped in a very vicious cycle of repayments, penalties that are not very clear. And then, of course, there are a lot of scams and fraud. I just want to maybe point out one recent, maybe about 2 months, 3 months, or beginning of this year, where there was a crypto exchange platform that a lot of Nigerians, a lot of Kenyans subscribed to, and it was promising supernormal returns through AI-powered trading. So everybody today hears the word AI and they're excited. And I can for sure confirm that there are a couple of migrants from either Kenya or Nigeria that saw this opportunity and they ran for it. And of course, crypto being the next, I don't know, big discussion around the money flows and all that. So people ran for this kind of solution, and eventually a lot of money was lost. A lot of people lost money. So you can imagine the impact that this had into the livelihoods of different people, families, the people who are supposed to get this money. And this continues a lot, and sometimes is basically, it comes from a point of lack of information. So again, this is a great exposure because of the technology that has been deployed, that maybe has not been vetted, and we end up getting pulled into this kind of scams and fraud. There's also an aspect of regulation because most of the time, if you look at fintech companies, they sort of operate in limited sort of regulation. So it leaves migrants sometimes a bit vulnerable to exploitation and unfair practices, because a lot of innovation, you find that regulation is always catching up innovation. So something might happen, something brilliant, cryptocurrencies is coming up and the technology is coming up, people will easily fall for this new technology that is promising supernormal profits. And then by the time the regulation catches up, you find that it's too late and people have already lost money. There are also cybersecurity risks around cyber attacks for certain platforms that are not properly secured. For example, when you get to a platform that sends money today, you are required to put your card details. So when you put your card details, you have to put your full card details and the code behind the card. So some platforms that are not very secure can easily get that data, or someone can easily penetrate and get that data and use it for different things, that are fraudulent. I mean, we've handled a lot of transactions, a couple of transactions where someone from the diaspora says, I can see my card was run and the transaction was run through your service, but I am not aware. I probably swiped my card at a certain place, and from that time, I'm just getting some debits into my account. And I mean, we have to work around all that, going back into the whole value chain of that acquisition of that transaction to ensure that we actually refund this person their money. So I think it's just very important for us to see how we can regulate this technology, this app, and most importantly, ensure consumer protection.
Thank you very much, Andrew. I already hear and see how Anne's team and your teams have a lot of room to curate educational resources, because I think cybersecurity is a topic globally that needs a lot of advice, a lot of education, and super great that Collins got you together. So now moving from the topic of fintech to the culture of sustainable wealth building. As diasporans, we're all looking for investment opportunities, who are subscribed to this channel, to look at ways where we can invest into scalable and sustainable business opportunities. And thinking of Kenya and East Africa, the fintech space is definitely very lucrative. And it would be interesting to hear more about how you've built your technology. Did you find those local talents in Kenya? Did you find those talents abroad? What is the talent situation like? And I really would like to open this up to Anne as well and to Collins as well, because if we were to build a tech company on the African continent, are there talents who can build such a technology? And yeah, maybe Andrew, how did you build yours?
That's an interesting question. Absolutely. Again, the beauty about technology and fintech is we are very agile. So because I would say our team is comprised of different people from different locations. Again, COVID showed us that you can work remotely, and appreciate the fact that you can work remotely and from anywhere. So we have a mix of people from different places. For example, like the technology that we are using, the design, the technology design, especially from the front end, we had someone from Pakistan designing it for us. And we were able to basically interact very well through digital platforms, planning and having the sessions, human-centered sort of design sessions, to just come up and curate the front end. We have people handling the back end from within Kenya, some from Uganda and some from Nigeria. And it was very easy for us to work within these markets to be able to come up with this sort of technology that we are able to today to share with different people or different companies that are sending remittances into Africa. So maybe that's the case for us and how we're able to do it.
Thank you.
Sorry, Talula, can I add more on what the government is trying to do in terms of enhancing technology around the remittances?
Please do, absolutely. And what would be interesting as well is to hear the government's stance on AI, such as OpenAI or ChatGPT? That would be very interesting to hear that as well.
What I can inform, we are trying as a government to develop platforms that allow our diaspora to invest in directly in vetted opportunities like infrastructure bonds, SME bonds, and land and housing. That is basically what we are trying to make sure that this is transparent in terms of these remittances. And as Andrew has said, we are not looking at just consumption. We are looking at job creation. We are looking at increasing our wealth in the country in terms of family wealth and also improving the standards of living. And that is what really the government, part of it, we are trying to enhance in terms of this technology.
Just add on, when you say talent, I think Kenya is vast in local talent. The opportunities are there in terms of knowledge and skills. You find when it comes to even immigration itself, for any foreigner to apply for work permit in Kenya, there has to be a Kenyan understudy. And they have to produce certification, documentation just to show the knowledge of expertise they have. So looking at that, it just shows you the knowledge and the vast experience that Kenya has in terms of local talent is enormous, both in technology and in other sectors of the economy. And so I think when you look at it in terms of what the government is also trying to do, just to add on what Anna said, we have flagships such as Google, company, Microsoft. They've tapped into the local talent of the Kenyan market instead of bringing in foreign expertise who can run different departments for theirs. The MD, for example, for Microsoft is a Kenyan woman, right, running Microsoft in Kenya. That just shows you the level of talent we have in the country. Google is tapping into Kenyans to run it as well. So at the end of the day, I think we don't have a shortage of talent. We have enormous talent. The competition is very stiff, even to get locals to work for certain industries, because people are graduating left, right, and center in institutions of higher learning. So I think the competition is there, and we're even seeing international companies tapping into Kenyans to go and head departments in those particular countries. So local talent is enormous, and that is why even investors are coming to set up shop in Kenya. When you're looking for labor, we have Kenyans who can definitely handle those particular opportunities they want to come and explore in the country. So that is not an area whereby Kenya lacks, but we have enormous talent when it comes to in-house.
It's very interesting, Collins. And I think there is a very big gap or misconception sometimes when it comes about opportunities on the continent or from the diaspora, a perception gap of what is happening on the ground and how advanced the opportunities or the growth sectors already are. So I would love to point to someone in the audience. I don't know, Crystal, I hope you don't mind putting you on the spot, but I would like to open this up also to the audience. And since I know you are a Kenyan diasporan, if you could just briefly introduce yourself and tell us about your experiences when it comes about when it's about remittances or even the opportunities on the continent.
Firstly, before I answer that, thank you to everyone. This has been so insightful. I don't hear these conversations enough, I think, in my echo bubble. So it's really interesting. I've learned a lot. For example, I didn't know about the help desk at JKIA. So I grew up in Kenya. My dad's Kenyan, my mom's Portuguese. So it's also really interesting to have more than one identity. I resonated with Talula's kind of, I had a lot of identity crisis because I feel mostly Kenyan. I grew up there. But then sometimes like having more than one identity is quite tricky. But direct response to your question, I feel like there's loads of talent. It's not an issue of talent. M-Pesa was born in Kenya, mobile money, and it's not often recognized enough. I think often, at least from the most time I've spent more than working is in academia, and it's often very Western, Eurocentric dominated. And so even in studies, they would give examples and be like, yeah, Kenya, I saw a study that said that Kenya came up with mobile money during COVID, which is not factual. M-Pesa was way before anything in the whole world, was the first mobile money. So I think there's so much talent. There's also so much innovation and really like foresight, strategic foresight in Kenya. That's not the issue. The issue is the resources and opportunity. The unemployment is very high, like many people mentioned. And so I think it's just opportunity and the resources and the opportunities and the inequality sometimes, because the people who get those opportunities are often people, it's a bit of a cycle. So the people who go to certain schools or have certain investments into them. And so that's why I want to look at how I can invest back into Kenya, because although I grew up there, I couldn't get a job. So that's why I had to move abroad. I couldn't get a job. I definitely tried. I also did higher education abroad. And I love my job here, but sometimes I do wish I could also work, at home. Also not have winter all the time. But so I think it's definitely not a talent issue, 100%. It's very much opportunities. And sometimes also people are very hardworking, but sometimes also the risk and reward. I know a lot of my friends in Kenya who wouldn't necessarily set up their own business because it feels more risky. I think it's also our education system, including mine, trained me very much to get a job. It's quite scary to almost start your own thing. But I think, I'd love to hear from more seasoned, experienced professionals. I think in Kenya, the way forward is also setting up your own business and finding investors, because that feels like the more risky way, which the education system doesn't really train us for. But it's, that could be a way to get around the unemployment situation. So I'd love to hear. That would be my question. And I hope I answered your questions as well.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for this beautiful introduction and also delivering so much insight. And, you've actually asked questions, and I would love to hear from Anne Collins and Andrew what your take is. And perhaps Anne, as a, Diaspora Affairs representative, what is your feedback to Crystal, and what are some of the frameworks that you might have that could be more favorable right now to diasporans such as Crystal?
Hi, Crystal. Very much proud that you're making Kenya proud out there. And we want to tell you that Kenya is really trying very hard to bring you back and bring back your investment so that you can help our people down here. As you have pointedly put across issues like unemployment, unfavorable investment, that is something that a government is really trying to look at in terms of fostering public-private partnership with people like you, with fintech, with banks which are opening, are already established here, so that we can try to bring that like trust and knowing that your investment is really in safe environment. We also are providing regulatory and test innovations that once you come in, you are given like a period where you can be able to do your research, be able to see what you are putting in this country. Is it viable? Is it going to help the people, or is it going to be taken away by some rogue people, because really it's not government, it's individuals who are making this space difficult to invest. We are also ensuring that, for example, the remittances that diasporas are bringing back into our country are put in a place that is really beneficial. And we ensure that, for example, the cybersecurity, you've heard of the Cyber Act that Kenya had recently put in place in 2018, that there is protection and privacy of any data, whether it's monetary, whether it's materially, or whether it's AI or something that is put in the country. It's well put in self-custody, and it is privately put for the person who wants to invest. More so, we are also looking at trying to also put diaspora bonds, which you can be able to come and put your hard-earned money into making this economy of Kenya grow. For example, in healthcare, in infrastructure, affordable housing, that's what is the key sectors that our government, through our president, is really trying to put across to our Kenyans out there to come and invest in. We also have different strategy frameworks that will be more ready to share with you once you give us your contact, so that you can familiarize with how you can integrate into our systems and also contribute into the national development plans that are there in the country. We also have capital markets that, Crystal, you can engage in that can help the country to grow. We have the Nairobi Stock Exchange. We have different domestic capital markets that you can also come and be part of us. And for sure, Kenya is really growing. It's not the Kenya that you had in mind long before COVID. We are here to develop both in the country and out in the diaspora. So be part of us. We walk this journey. Thank you.
I think I'll just add to what Anna said, but just from a different perspective. I think you are seeing two entrepreneurs right now talking to you. There's myself and Andrew. We're Kenyans, we've been in this space. I've been an entrepreneur for the last 15 years. Of course, definitely our educational background, which was 844 back then, didn't really teach us on how to be entrepreneurs. It didn't focus on how can we start our own businesses, how can we be successful in our own businesses, in our own, being our own employer and creating opportunities for other people. We were taught to finish high school, get a job, either become a lawyer, become a doctor, which are good things. But some of us had the mentality of just being entrepreneurs, the entrepreneurial mind, for example, was in me. And I think what tried me to start and join and become an entrepreneur is I knew my market. I knew there was a niche in the market. And I didn't really focus on too many things, because what we see in the Kenyan space, especially for young people, is trying to venture into very many sectors and trying to see what can make them flourish. But I think when you do that, first of all, you'll give up and you won't have enough resources to actually put your money into every other sector. What I advise is, if you know your niche market, you are in an open space right now. Kenya is growing, like Anna said. And the opportunities for young entrepreneurs to come and thrive in this market right now. An emerging market that we are seeing a trend in is the creative industry, because what I can say is Kenyans have looked for opportunities, they've looked for jobs, and now they decided, what about if we become our own creative people, set up a TikTok account, and through that, channel videos, either different aspects of videos, cosmetics, or funny videos, comedy videos. And what we're seeing is that that particular creative industry is now being part of something called Kenya Investment department, Ken Invest, whereby it's an emerging economy that is generating almost 5 billion Kenya shillings in a year, right? And that didn't start from people saying, okay, there's no opportunities, let's just drop dead. But it started whereby young Kenyans came and said, how can we create our own employment? Government can do their part, but there's much government can do. But I think at the end of the day is, if you know your niche market, if you know the market you want to come and invest in, you can thrive in the market and you can actually get gains to grow in the market and in the region as well, right? It's painful that we hear stories of diasporans who want to invest back in Kenya, but they've been conned. I mean, today I was just reading an article in The Nation of whereby diasporans have been sending money to invest in houses, only to come and visit and they see nothing. It's plain dry land, it's growing shrubs and everything else. And government has actually come in to arrest those individuals who are manipulating the diasporians when it comes to investments. Last session, we had a Kenyan, Lillian. She's in the cosmetic business. She put in money in cosmetics in Kenya, only to lose her investments, right? So that was a platform for her even to understand, how can I come in and do a cosmetic business in Kenya? And yet, her cosmetic business is flourishing in Europe, yet it's a Kenyan product, right? I mean, that tells you with proper information, with proper guidance, Kenyans in the diaspora can actually come back home and invest and start a business and actually thrive in that business to be international at the end of the day.
Can I say something actually just quickly in response to that? I totally agree. And as someone who, I'm very new to investing and I don't have large amounts to invest yet, but like, for me, it's not just about the return. Kenya offers a huge return because of, I just see so much potential and the growth rate, and the population is set to grow as well. So that's going to continue. It's not just about the return. For me, it's very much the impact, because I love my country. So I want to see a social and environmental impact. And I'm trying to get into also in my career impact investing. And sometimes I don't, even if I got that money back or I saw that it was used, I don't always see the money going into the right hands. That's my issue. Actually, it's not so much also the return, it's also the impact. I would be happier to have a smaller return on my investment, but to have more impact in terms of like a social impact, that the money goes into communities and into regenerative farming, not just cash crops, not just coffee and maize, but actual food. You know, maize is fine. At least that's edible. But like coffee, I mean, you know what I mean? I'd rather that there was more impact in the investment. And so I think we need more transparency around that. And that's a whole other different problem, but maybe less corruption, more equality in how funds are distributed. Because I think I'm not the only one. I think quite a lot of diaspora, for giving back to Kenya, it's not just to get money back. It's very much also to give back to your home or where your parents live. But you want to see that, you want to see the whole country share that in a way. So if it would go into transport, for instance, it doesn't necessarily, I focus a lot on farming because I'm very interested in climate. But if it was, I'd be equally as happy if it was reinvested into public transport, because that's something everyone can benefit from.
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah.
This is the reason why we're having this discussion, to introduce you to partners on the ground who can work with you to see the impact where you are actually investing. And this is the reason why Zaria Mobility was started, to give hope to investors into the diasporans who want to come back and invest. To create transparency, we have a platform that investors and diasporans can actually track progress of where they're investing and where they're putting their money into. What kind of impact is it showing in the society? How the society benefiting? This is why we started this business. This is why we've been in the business for now more than 20 years and growing, because we are creating that transparency. We are creating that trust, that all is not lost. The rhetoric, of course, that comes from the vibe that comes from the country to the diasporans is always negative. But even as Anne has mentioned, the government is also trying to curb those loopholes, to protect the diasporans investing money back home, to show where the money is going into, to show where the impact is being done, if it's in farming, if it's in manufacturing, if it's in tourism and industry. We are trying to create that hope of, you know what, there's so much mistrust that has been out there, but we are bringing back trust. We are bringing transparency, because we can only build our country ourselves. We can't depend on foreign aid all the time. We can't depend on outsiders to come and build us. We can only build our country ourselves. So we are creating these discussions and this platform to introduce you to government, to hear the side of the story or of how they're coming up to seal those loopholes of mistrust and fraud. We are bringing in Andrew to talk about, for example, remittances, because there's also fraud in remittances. People are losing money in remittances. How can we avoid that? So we are trying to show trust. We're trying to build trust, because if we don't have trust between us on the ground and the diaspora, then nothing is going to move. The diaspora won't send money back home. Development won't be done. But if there's trust between diaspora and what is on the ground, the money being channeled from the diaspora back to Kenya, we don't even need foreign aid. If we were transparent with that money, if we showed that this money is going here and here, a lot can be done in the country. A lot can be done on that. And that is why even for the diaspora, for example, not only affecting Kenya, we have a diaspora called, Kasa? It's a group of diasporans who came together. They're based in London, but they came together for a purpose whereby they set up projects in different countries, and they are funded by diasporans living in those countries, right? So when the diasporans send money to that particular organization, this money is channeled to different projects in Africa. And the reason they did that is because they discovered when they send money back home, nothing is being done. So they had to have a platform whereby how can diasporans channel money to an entity, and this entity actually sends money to the specific target that it is intended to. So that is how they're building trust. That is how we're building trust. And through that, we encourage you to come back and invest, or not even really to come back, but work with us, work with the partners on the ground, and create the trust to know that you are hard-earned money. Or at least to give you proof that there is something happening.
Unfortunately, Collins, I think we could not hear the last part of what you said. If you could just repeat the last sentence, and then in the interest of time, I would like to open up the floor for the audience, but really great inputs, Crystal. I think that is exactly what enriches this conversation, and hopefully we can also take it offline and keep those bilateral engagements flowing.
Great. Yeah, so I was saying, I think, can you hear me now?
Yes.
So I was saying, I think this is the reason as to why we want to create trust and transparency and encourage diasporians that Kenya has changed. Not the same vibe. We might see negativity in the media or negativity coming out of it. First of all, it's for a reason, because change is good. Knowledge is key. Information is key. And when we see that, either we can react badly or we can react positively. And so I believe with what is happening on the ground right now, we are seeing change in the country. The state diaspora is trying to bring that change as well through policy, enacting policies that protect diasporans' investments. Platforms like Andrew's Remitcore Group is trying to protect remittances coming from abroad to Kenya in a transparent manner, in a legitimate manner, so that diasporans are confident that if you're sending money back home, if I'm putting money in an investment back home, then actually things are moving and we shall see the impact our money is bringing in the society. So don't lose hope, because we are moving, and that is why we are here to have this discussion and to give you hope that a lot is changing, and we are your gateway to make that change happen.
Wonderful. Thank you, Collins. I would love to open up the floor, because I can see we have international investors in the sustainability space in this call as well. And I would like to give the opportunity if there are any comments, feedback, questions. Okay, in that case, I would just like to circle back to you, Andrew. Fintech, we talked about trust, we talked about transparency. What is your take on blockchain technology as a secure tool of transferring money? And, it's also interesting to understand maybe, Anne, if the government is open to blockchain secure technology. Is that something happening on the ground, Andrew?
Yes, thanks for that question. I think it's a very interesting question. I think for us, when you're looking at the blockchain and for the country and the country's position, when you're looking at blockchain, what we get from that is basically the cryptocurrencies. So there are two types of this type of cryptocurrencies. There's a stable coins that are actually backed by an actual value of, I don't know, $1, for example. An example is USDT, USDC, that are now becoming very popular modes or means of value transfer because there's a lot of liquidity for the same that is being issued and it's actually backed up somewhere. Okay. So about 2-3 years ago, the Central Bank of Kenya did a research around the same and an stakeholder involvement. And they just wanted to understand how about launching, I don't know, a blockchain sort of secure payment that is Kenya shilling backed. Yeah. So, and they got a lot of stakeholder responses. And the decision at that point was Kenya is not yet ready for this kind of payments. But now, again, coming last year, Kenya was actually grey listed, yeah, on account of anti-money laundering, terrorism financing, and proliferation financing. And one of the things that came out very strongly, and they're one of the reasons why we were grey listed, is because there's a lot of activity around the crypto space. So the recommendation was one, we have to have a framework to regulate crypto or blockchain kind of payments. And I think to date, there's a bill already that has been passed that will allow virtual asset service providers to operate in Kenya. And we're just waiting for regulations. And maybe by end of the year, you'll be seeing flows of cryptocurrency that most of the time stable coins that have a framework to regulate and basically to even understand to the level of KYC who is owning, who is transferring to whom, and how do you embed this to the current infrastructure. So that is the position of the country. I know most of the time when you're looking at our regional bloc, so Kenya is usually in the forefront of launching these innovations. So we anticipate the same will, once this is adopted, we'll see this flowing easily into the other East African countries, followed by Uganda, followed by Tanzania, followed by Rwanda, and all these countries. So I think we are headed that way. And honestly, from my point, I think the future is blockchain payments. That's just the reality because one, they tend to ensure that the cost of transfer goes down significantly. Number two, they're traceable, and the liquidity is in plenty, especially for stable coins. So there's definitely a very good use case for this type of transactions and the technology that you just said. Thank you.
Thank you, Andrew. That's already an investment opportunity right there. Yes. And how do you view this space?
Yeah, Talula, Kenyan government has goodwill in blockchain, cryptocurrency investments. And basically, there are different regulatory developments that have been put in place Most of them are drafts, but they are being worked on with different government agencies. For example, we have draft national policy on virtual assets and service providers, whereby consumer protection is key. Licensing is also addressed. Anti-money laundering is also addressed as well. And the cybersecurity measures are going to be put in place. We also have virtual asset service providers bill, which is a new bill of 2025, whereby there is legislation for cryptocurrency firms operating in Kenya to establish local offices here in the country. And we also trying to inform them that we will need them to appoint government-approved CEOs so that we can have something that is being visible, something that is being able to be Kenyans can be able to work with, and also to see that this is a formal financial system. We also have a goodwill from our country in terms of digital asset tax that will also help Kenyans to earn money from these cryptocurrencies companies. There is openness. There is to ensure compliance so that nothing goes with these companies that Kenyans are not seeing or not knowing, so that there is that government goodwill in terms of these blockchain investments. So there's also an industry collaboration with the engagement of Blockchain Association of Kenya, and the National Assembly Department of Committee on Finance and National Planning was tasked to put a bill to regulate crypto assets with this Blockchain Association of Kenya, BAK, to ensure the approach between the lawmakers and industry stakeholders is open, and there's nothing to hide from Kenyans who are trying to invest in these assets. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you, Anne. In the interest of time, we will be wrapping up shortly. I would like to give the floor to Rhoda, who has a question to Anne and Andrew. And please briefly introduce yourself as well.
Okay, thank you very much, Talila. And good evening, and thank you very much, Colin, for inviting me to this session. Good evening to everyone as well. It's a pleasure to be with you today. My name is Rhoda Mweni, founder and CEO of Telbyte Digital Solutions Limited, a cybersecurity-focused IT company based in Kenya. We work very closely with Konza Technopolis, and Konza Technopolis is a smart city developed under the Ministry of ICT and Digital Economy, designed to be an Africa innovation powerhouse. Thank you very much. At least I'm very happy to be present here, and the discussions were very brilliant, and also presentation from Anne and Andrew. And for Anne, I would like to ask you one question about the vulnerable groups, such as the people with disabilities are they being included in international job placement, and how are you handling that? And as well for Andrew, how do your services reach rural areas in Kenya where traditional banking infrastructure is weak? Thank you.
Wonderful questions. Really great questions.
Talula, am I supposed to start?
Yes, please. Yes, please.
I'm looking at the chair moderating, so I was waiting to be told, Anne, take it up.
Anne, please take it up.
Okay, thank you so much. And thank you, Mweni, for your question. State Department of Diaspora is really looking at Kenyan migrant workers regardless of how you are, whether you are physically challenged, physically abled. That is a Kenyan seeking work in the diaspora. So basically, all the practices, any regulation that is put for any worker going out, it's the same to the physically abled people. So basically, we look at how we can look at the low-skilled migrant workers, how the regulations are in terms of recruitment, whether in the domestic work, whether in the construction or hospitality. We make sure that your ability in different way is being addressed in the contract that you're being given. So that is something that State Department is very key in terms of recruitment, in terms of welfare, in terms of exploitation. We are trying to curb that. Whether you are facing exploitation, we give you a way of listening to you in terms of giving you what can I say, welfare, talking to us in terms of if you are able, if you are depressed, if you are not able to work, there is mechanism of you being brought back to Kenya. So any regulation that is put for the able people, also the physically able person is being addressed the same. So that is all I can say.
Thank you very much, Anne, for this feedback. I hope, Rhoda, this answered your question. And really, in the interest of time, Andrew, please tackle the last question before we wrap it up.
Thank you very much. That was a good question. I think, as I said before, we have different modalities or different channels for our recipients, and we allow them to choose. We give them the option to choose how they want to receive their money. Luckily enough, Kenya's financial inclusion is quite high because of the penetration of mobile money. But even so, this mobile money you have to access it through an agent at some point. So you find in certain marginalized areas, you go to an agent, and possibly because there is no bank around, they do not have float, so you can never access the money. So one of the things that we are doing on our end, or at least we have done on our end, is realizing that shortcoming is we are very keen on remittance linked services. Yeah. So instead of just sending money for just directly money, so how do we link it up to maybe a product so that you can access certain services, you can access certain savings. I had Anne talking about a platform that the ministry is working on for investment. So we have something running also on the side on that, and maybe after this call, we'll just have to talk and see how we can integrate our efforts so that we're not working in silos. So at the senders on our platform, at the senders side, we have actually aggregated all merchants for mobile money today on M-Pesa, and we are providing a validation for that so that when someone is sending money, they can actually send to a supplier as long as they have their merchant code. Say in Turkana, you want to access, I don't know, a bag of rice, I don't know, some cooking oil. So instead of going to withdraw the cash, incur additional cash or fees for withdrawing, you directly pay into this merchant account, and all you need to do is go and present that that confirmation. So instead of cashing out, you actually get the goods. So that is something that we've already implemented on our payment gateway, and some of the merchants are already sending money for this type of consumption. But even for investment, we are aggregating now schools, we are aggregating insurance companies so that you directly pay for what you intend to pay for. If it's a real estate company, then instead of sending it to your brother to withdraw and go and pay the real estate company, you can actually control that transaction directly from the comfort of your space in Switzerland.
Amazing, absolutely amazing. So, as a final question, and I would like to have just a few words from each of you, and that is regarding sustainable impact investing, solar, wind, energy security. What would you say is the biggest investment need in Kenya right now? Fire round.
I don't feel expert enough to answer that, but I wouldn't invest on the most important, just the one that resonates the most with me. Like I think so. That's tricky. I think solar. I'm not sure actually. I don't know if that's the most effective, but I think it's so doable with how my dad put solar panels before they were cool, so maybe like 20 years ago, and he said that he can't he can't describe how much money he thinks he saved and how much his bills went down, because our home is entirely powered by solar, and he did that himself. So I think solar.
Solar, and side note, we will have to invite your dad to a future session and definitely rope in Daniel Frericks much more for future episodes. Solar, Andrew, what do you say?
That's an interesting one. I think we are still at a point where we're sort of trying to figure out the basic needs. So I'll still go with the agri, yeah, because until we are able to get enough, yes, we are producing enough, but how do we improve the value chain so that we get to, I don't know, levels of export? And when we are having export, then we are able to reduce certain budget deficits that we currently have because of the over importation that we are doing. So for me, I'll start with agri business for now.
Agribusiness. Which product? Fire round.
Oh, I'll go with the most basic ones before I figure out issues to do with horticulture, things to do with floriculture. So I'll go with the basic, like maize and sugar that we are still importing, yet we have very good industries in the western part of the countries that need a lot of revamping to do.
Solar, sugar, maize.
Maize, yes.
Okay. Can I concur with Andrew?
Please.
For me, I'll go with agribusiness and food security, and we are talking about smart farming. That is agri-tech, and the way he's talking about exports, and also because like if you look at agriculture, it employs over 60% of Kenyans, but it's a little bit mechanized. So we need to mechanize our agriculture business, but we go through agri-farming, which is technology, which we are calling agri-tech.
Okay, agri-tech. Thank you so much, Rhoda. We have agri-tech, and now Anne, please.
Yes, I would like us to support the carbon trading and the nature-based solutions in terms of reforestation and restoring our mangroves. That is really key because that will bring the change of climate to be favorable for Kenya, this part of the world. We need rain for the food security that we are talking about. Trees, trees, trees. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So mangroves, biodiversity, decarbonization. Very happy to hear that you are still riding the sustainability wave, which is so important. And we have Daniel highlight public, e-mobility, solar, wind, and storage. Fantastic inputs. And now Collins, the final words.
I think for me, I'd go with renewable energy, solar, just because at the end of the day, the cost of electricity is skyrocketing. And as much as government is trying to put mechanisms to cut it down, it's becoming a burden to consumers at the end of the day. And so parts of rural Kenya, they need power, and some of them can't afford to pay the domestic bills of electricity. So I think renewable energy and solar, we are seeing a rise in that. It's also part of the emerging sectors of the economy. And so I think I would go with that.
Wonderful. So you've really provided us with so much insight and food for thought for future sessions and, power to Africa, energy to Africa, doing it in a sustainable way. With OpenAI now taking Africa, energy is definitely key. And as a continent that has leapfrogged before, there are definitely so many smaller circles that we need to bring together. And as you said, Andrew, let's not work in silos. I just want to say this is such a great, strong group tonight. And I want to say thank you so much for meeting and convening on this platform. Let's definitely keep the conversation going and flowing. And to all the people watching, also the replay that we will have on our YouTube channel, the AfroSwissters YouTube channel. Please do reach out to Collins, Andrew, Anne, and even Crystal. If you give me permission, I will add your profile as well. And yes, let's definitely stay in touch, join the Legacy Roundtable, because this is how we can connect further and build more partnerships for the goals. Thank you so much. Asika mwema, I know that's what they say in Tanzania. How do you say goodnight in Kenya?
Usiku mwema.
Oh, wonderful. Wonderful. So
But you're really trying. Yeah, very good.
with that in mind, I just want to say, please go with peace, and I look forward to reconvening again in future episodes. The first block of this Roundtable AfroSwister series is coming to an end, and in a few weeks, we will be back with a bigger lineup with more voices and hopefully also, more inputs. But definitely, Anne, Andrew, Collins, you have to be back, bring your teams and bring your representatives. Thank you so much for your trust.
Before we go, I also just wanted to thank you for organizing it. Really, really woke me up. It was very energizing and nice to I learned a lot. Thank you.
Thank you for your feedback, Crystal. Wonderful. Take care. Good night.
Thank you, Talula. Thank you for this platform.
Thank
Bye.
you very much.
Okay,
Good night. Bye.
Good night. Bye.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Anne. I will reach out to you in a more personal manner as well. And I just want to say thank you very much. You have represented your country very well, and the president
you.
can be proud. Let's
Oh,
hope
no.
that it will trickle, it will trickle through.
Mhm.
And all the best. God bless you.
Power to the sisters as well. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Good night, Anne.
Good night.
Good night.